Hi everybody, this is Nelson from MonkeyBasic. I'm here to show you the latest of my software packages called VirtualHaunt. Now VirtualHaunt is a 3-axis simulation program. So rather than having your 3-axis skulls set up in your room, you can have one virtually simulated for you on the PC. The skull that you see on the screen will be able to mimic each servo motion of a skull. You sort of program the different servos. You tell them, sort of the max and min, the default value of each one, and it's meant to closely replicate what an actual skull will do. It's since turned into a little more than that. So you can still program with it, but you can also use it as is. We have the option of going full screen with a black background, so this could be used outside on a projector or on a monitor, but standalone. And like I said, it's full screen, so you won't see any border. You'll just see a skull doing whatever you want on the screen. And as I'll show you later on in the other tutorial, that you can hook this up directly to VSA, so you would output to just like as you would to a server controller, right into VirtualHaunt. Now with VirtualHaunt, you can have up to 6 skulls on screen at a time. We're going to keep this simple right now. We're just going to keep one skull going. So let me show you some of the positioning stuff first. So if you want to move the skull around the screen, I can show you that's actually 3D. I can say this skeleton display, I can move it, rotate it one way or the other, rotate them up or down. So you can move them along the screen as well. So you go in, you move out. So what we can do is we can just, and you also have this default button. This will reset everything back to the way it was. And if you have multiple skulls, you can use this up click button to adjust each skull individually. Now, also, if you have multiple things on the screen and you want to actually sort of just get a different viewpoint, you can use the scene select. So if I hit out, what I'm doing is I'm actually moving the entire scene. So think of it as a camera. I'm actually moving the position of the camera rather than each skull individually. So I can zoom back in. So let's set it up so it's pretty big. Oops, wrong way. And let's do that. Leave them like that. That'll be pretty good for playing around. So I hit OK. Okay, so let's take a look at settings now. You can get to settings either by going Tools and Settings or by hitting the F3 key. So under Settings, you'll see that there are 3 sections: COM settings, skeleton options, and servo to skull link. So let's do the COM settings. COM settings is simply the COM ports and the type of server controller that you want to listen to. So if you typically have an SSC32 board on COM1, that's what you select. That's what I have here. You can select up to 3 different COM ports. So think of this as where your servo controller would usually be plugged into. In my case, like I said, it would be COM1 SSC32 the type of board. Next section is skeleton options. You can enable up to 6 different skulls or skeletons. So if I wanted to turn this guy into a skeleton instead of just a skull, I change that. I can change his eye colors to yellow, and I hit OK. That, and if we zoom out, which is under the F4 options, if I zoom out, you'll see that he is now a full skeleton. Alright, back in. Alright, okay. Let's go back to options. And there are settings. So I'm going to leave him at just a regular skull. In the next area is server to skull link. So think of this as of how VSA is set up. So you have your COM port selection, your address, and your min-max and default value for each channel. In our case, typically these would be your settings for each servo. So what I'm doing here is basically I'm mimicking the servo. So you use the exact same settings, so the plus, and then on this side you can see I'm linking those settings to a specific feature of the skull. So you see my first line here is the jaw, which is on COM1 address 0. I'm linking it to skull number 1, and a skull jaw. Simple as that. So you can see I have the jaw, I have the rotation, I have the nod, tilt, and I have the eye up down and eye left right, as well as reverse. So if you're playing around, you notice that the action is in the reverse direction, or his jaw is going up into his head instead of opening properly, you can just hit the reverse key. As well as an option here for those that have VSA is you're able to import VSA defaults. So let me just show you that real quickly. So if I open VSA, which I have open, I go to Tools, Settings, you'll see that down here there's a little hammer in the corner. You want to make sure that if these are your proper settings, you want to save the defaults. So I'm going to click Save Defaults, and then if I close VSA and go back here, I can say Import VSA Defaults. And actually, since I have them already imported, they're not going to change. But so this is the exact same from everything from the enable line, the name, combo address, to the values. So it's pretty simple. Like I said, this is just you're mimicking the servos, and you're telling basically from which VSA, or it doesn't even have to be VSA. It can be track skull, it can be Vixen, just as long as you sort of link the command or the channel to which feature you want on the skull. So, and the last thing on here is the background. So what you saw before was a nighttime background. There's also a black background, so I choose that one. You see your black background goes away. The tools, if I go to adjust positioning, settings, if I go to nighttime, you get the nighttime one back. There you go. So basically that's it for those two, settings and adjust position. And there's another one here, toggle full screen, which basically lets you go full screen on it. So if you're in the backyard and you want to, or in your haunt, you want to show this off, and you want to show it on a projector, and you don't want any of the windows borders going around, you can hit full screen, and it'll expand it. So if you do full screen with a black background, you'll have a nice display to show outside or inside, wherever you want. And that's it. So if you have any questions related to this tutorial or anything else, feel free to email me at nelson@monkeybasic.com or visit my website, monkeybasic.com. I hope this helped you, and happy haunting.